Dan Wise, Ryan Park, Kimmy Park, the Branded Felon.
You wouldn't know if we didn't tell you.
And we thought a good topic today would be setbacks. When we talk about setbacks, what does that look like for you guys?
To be honest with you, when we started talking about this topic, it was pretty interesting because I was thinking about it. Once you come home, there's a different life that you have to live now, because the life that you were living before all this is no longer your life anymore. So you have to readapt into the world. What kind of house am I going to live in now? What kind of car am I going to drive? What kind of job am I going to get? But what I never really dawned on me is what's my life going to look like on a daily basis now? And I think that was a really tough transition for me coming home is, who am I?
How did you end up overcoming the setbacks? Or are you still figuring it out?
I'm still figuring out. That's the crazy part. I mean, I'm still figuring out. I'm still finding myself, who I was before I went into the criminal enterprise. I lost who I was. Like I lost my passion. I lost everything. What defined me? What made me proud of myself? So when I came home, I'm no longer that criminal. I'm no longer the person that's facing federal prison. I'm no longer the inmate. I'm now Ryan entering a whole new world. And that was a setback that I'm like, okay, so I'm still finding myself. I'm still finding my path. And I think probably for the rest of my life, I'm still going to find who I am. And every day is like a new adventure right now to me.
And incredible watching him become the person I've always known he was. The biggest setback for me has been just dealing with the shame. So I've had a lot of opportunities since I've come out of prison. I found myself, found my confidence, but there's definitely setbacks when I'm going through job interviews, through getting promoted, and all of these things. I still have these moments of setbacks where I feel like I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy.
Are they like mental setbacks that you kind of create in your mind?
I create these mental setbacks, but I feel just the shame. What if people judge me? What if people find out? There's a number of people in my industry and all the jobs I've had that do know about my past, but is it going to influence my future? I'm going above, and it's almost that self-sabotage characteristic starts coming back into me where like, you're not good enough, just ruin it, get done with it, quit.
How do you overcome those types of mindsets?
I usually talk to Ryan about it, or I just sit in quiet and silence, a little bit of meditation. Gotten to where I am in such a short amount of time because I really am a badass ego meter, okay? I work hard, I'm genuine, I care about my employees, I care about everybody that I come in contact to with my work, and I work my butt off for what I do. And so it's just an inner battle, like good cop, bad cop, or
stinking thinking, awfulizing all the time. It can get a hold of you.
Yeah. So that would be, I would say, my largest setback that I experienced coming out of prison and here now.
When you're having a rough week and things aren't going the way you planned and things that get triggered, it's like, fuck, if you don't have a plan of action, things kind of fall apart at the seams. Mm-hmm. If you're going through the prison system or going into like a reentry into a housing like where we are now, there's rules, and what applies to the real world doesn't necessarily apply. When I got to the halfway house, one of their things is if you want to go home on social passes, you have to find a job. And if you don't find a job, or at least show that you're actively searching for a job, they can send you back to prison because the halfway house makes 25% of your money, and they don't want you to sit in there taking up bed space if you're going to, not do anything with it. I got released to Spokane, Washington from South Florida, and I've never been in Washington. A good friend of mine owned a company in Florida, Fit Food Fresh, and they're like, yeah, we'll give you a job. He was basically just giving me a job to help me out. They have no offices here in Spokane. They were out of South Florida. So they opened up a little office for me downtown Spokane. I got it approved. They did all the paperwork. And part of getting a job in the halfway house is you have to tell your employer about your conviction and that you're living in a halfway house. And before you can get the job, somebody from the halfway house has to physically go out and meet your employer. So it can be kind of a daunting task out of the gate. Now, it wasn't for me because it was a friend of mine, but imagine, you're going to go apply for a job and it's like, before I can get the job, I got to tell them about my crime. And somebody from the halfway house has to come say, hey, Kimmy is a convicted felon and this is what she went to prison for, and you still want to hire her? That just sounds like such a roadblock in itself. So I got past all of that. And then the day, her name was Susan Winehandle. She was the job coordinator. All right, well, I'm going to go out there and meet your supervisor. And my supervisor's in Florida. Well, who's your supervisor here in Spokane? I don't have one. Now, meanwhile, you could see where this is going. They're like, well, how do we really know you're at work? You have to wear an ankle monitor. So I'm already GPS'd.
Right.
I was like, I don't have an on-site supervisor. They're like, oh no, we can't approve that. Nowhere in the BOP handbook does it say any of this. This is just like some fucking rule they made up, I guess.
That checks out.
And I really had to challenge my thinking because it took me weeks to organize this. You can't leave the halfway house unless you're going to work or you have a social pass for hygiene, church. You can't go home. You can't go out to dinner with your family. Right. None of that happens until you've proven that you can maintain a job. Right. So I'm fucking stuck. I'm like, oh my God, I just spent weeks in this direction and nothing's going to happen. So I put an ad on Craigslist for an admin assistant. I interviewed 3 or 4 different people, said, hey, look, I need somebody to come to my office, pretend to be my boss. I'll let you know what day and time. And you just basically need to say, yeah, I'm his supervisor. And it went off without a hitch, dude. This lady, $500 we paid her. She came out, sat there, pretending to be my boss. I got the job. But it was these extra steps. And the setback was oh my God, this isn't fair. Throw a temper tantrum. That was a big setback, just realizing that I can't just dictate how things are going to work. Not having control over everything around me was something that I always struggle with to this day. What I went through has definitely helped reshape from who I was to who I want to be. I don't have any shame about it because my life was way more shameful before prison. The shit that I used to do, that I was ashamed of. Going to prison, that was just a consequence for all of the stupid stuff that I did.
Prison was it was a life-changing experience for me. It was a lot harder than your guys' experience.
Oh, you're so bitter about that.
Yeah.
She's so bitter.
But really, it really did shape who I was. It gave me a lot of reflection time. I learned a lot about who I was and what I can do and how to control my emotions. There was a lot of good that came out of it. I just don't talk about it. I don't know why.
What advice would you give to somebody that is dealing with setbacks? They relapsed. Maybe they're out on pretrial or probation and they've been sober for a year and they had a drink.
A couple of weeks ago, I found out there was someone that was really close to me that was taking medication that was not prescribed him by a doctor, and they were buying it from a drug dealer. I put myself in their shoes, that when I was living a life, kind of like what Kimmy was talking about, where, we were so ashamed of our lives. So, whether you're going through addiction or, you relapse or you're stepping back into the real world after, going, the prison or whatever it is, you're actually more alone in that situation, because I never dawned on me that even though the life that I was living before, I didn't feel of course, you had the cars, you had the home, the traveling and everything, but really that you live with the secret. When I got caught and I started talking about it and I started opening up to people and I started asking for help, that's when you actually learn that you're more alone living in your darkness than when you actually come start talking to people. People might judge you for your past, and that's okay. But the people that are going to love you and the people that are going to support you and the people that are going to help you get to that next level, you are going to start to be surrounded by love and support, and it's going to get you to that next level in life.
What is some advice that you would have to the future Kimmy when she's going, I'm not good enough for this?
I would tell myself that the past does not define me. I don't have to be that person anymore, and to peel myself up, move on, forgive myself, and just keep moving forward, because once you start giving yourself an ounce of belief, you start realizing that the potential you have. And there's setback days, right? Some nights we'll drink too much, or I want to sleep in and I don't want to wake up at 4 a.m, or I want to work from home secretly. There's moments and days like that, but And it's okay to have your weak moments. It's just remembering that you don't have to be that person. You don't have to self-sabotage. Like, might be my theme of tonight, but self-sabotage is real, and you don't have to go back to that place.
Good stuff. I'm just going to piggyback off of Ryan because it's kind of on point. They so in psychology, they say one of the biggest roadblocks that humans have is we don't think we need anybody else's help to solve our own problems.
Right.
We try to do it all by ourselves, carry the burden by ourselves. And we'll see, like out right on the other side of this wall tonight, over here at Reclaim, there's a group of men together, and there might be women out there too that are here for whether it's AA, NA. They Bible study out here, and pastor brings tacos once a week. So I think there's proof in the science that community togetherness kind of brings you out of the darkness, because you are very alone when you're in your own head. It's why solitary confinement has such a bad connotation to it. When you hear about people in prison going to the shoe, I could see a punishment, 30 days, 60 days, but you've got guys in there for years.
Right.
And you expect them to ever be sane again. I mean, who do you talk to? You talk to yourself at some point. The progress is there's always going to be setbacks, at least for me. I'm always going to come across them. When I identify the problem, I don't waste as much time as I used to in the past on dwelling in it or trying to fix something that can't be fixed, right? I'm like, fuck it. I'm going to shoot this thing in the head and keep moving, or else I will stay in a stuck position for a very long time. And that's where my mind goes to a dark place. Setbacks are always going to be there, but I think I limit how long I set in the setback.
Everybody goes through them. Everybody feels the pain of them. It's just learning how to overcome them.
Completely off topic. So a buddy of mine, he actually sent me a text and he goes, should I apply for this? And I saw it, and it's a real listing.
Oh boy.
And it's on Indeed, and it's one of the insurance companies looking for a fraud project manager.
Oh, you should totally apply for it.
I know. And I'm like, look, I have 10 years.
Qualified.
I have 10 years field experience.
You're like Frank Abagnale.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I would love to do that.
How cool would that be?
Oh my God. I mean, like, look, I would love to talk to the people on the other end and be like, look, I know how you're feeling right now. Your blood pressure is probably going up. Your heart's probably beating. You're probably thinking someone's standing out by the door. So let's just get this over with. Let's just be real.
Branded felon.
You wouldn't know if we didn't tell you.
Boom.
Boom.
Blah, 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 blah.